Good afternoon. I'm Kate Rattner. I am a mom of three, a former teacher, and I currently serve on the Monroe Township Board of Education in Middlesex County. This is actually my third year coming before this committee. You might remember me to speak about inequities in our school funding formula, inequities that continue to place an unfair burden on taxpayers in my community. For nearly 2 decades, Monroe Township has been penalized by a formula that does not reflect our reality. Nearly 40% of our residents are senior citizens, and as a result, our local fair share is significantly miscalculated. Because of this, we have received 0 equalization aid since 2008. 0. So that is not equity. That is a systemic failure that has gone unaddressed for far too long. Before the School Funding Reform Act in 2008, districts like Monroe received targeted support through senior citizen supplemental stabilization aid to account for these exact circumstances. I would strongly urge you to consider passing Bill A2788 to restore fairness for districts that have been disproportionately impacted for years. At the same time, our challenges have intensified. Due to state housing mandates, our enrollment has more than doubled from 3,100 students in 2003 to 7,000 today. Our community has stepped up, funding construction of 2 new schools because we do not have impact fees in New Jersey. Our taxpayers are doing their part and more, yet the state's funding structure continues to leave us behind. While we are grateful for the recent modest appropriations to address critical repairs, these investments do not solve the larger issue. Overcrowding persists, and our students are denied access to programs that are offered in other districts. One of the most urgent examples is full-day kindergarten. While many districts offer free preschool, Monroe Township remains one of the few unable to provide full-day kindergarten. Not because we don't value it, but because we lack space and funding. I came before this committee last year to share my excitement that full-day kindergarten would become a reality, but my concern about the prospect of an unfunded mandate. I was assured legislators oppose unfunded mandates, yet with the passage of mandatory full-day kindergarten, that's what's happened. How can we justify a system where districts receive millions each year for preschool, while those without full-day kindergarten are excluded from applying for those funds, but also we're not given any support to implement a program every other district has? It's not fairness, it's a gap that must be addressed. I ask this committee to appropriate funding for the remaining districts in New Jersey that want to implement full-day kindergarten, but lack the resources. In Monroe Township, accommodating full-day kindergarten without placing additional strain on our students requires $22 million in capital improvements. This doesn't include staffing and operational costs, which we wouldn't mind having the appropriations for as well, but addressing infrastructure is our most immediate need. We're not asking for special treatment, we're asking for a fair formula and the support to provide our students with the education they deserve. Thank you for your time.
Any questions?
Quick question.
Yes.
Did you provide written testimony as well?
I did.
Can you please do that for us?
Yep, I don't know if I had enough copies, but I also did email it. And then just so with the testimony, I also did include, because we had a design study that was done using actually the appropriations to what our costs would be in order to provide full-day kindergarten. So I did include that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Assemblyman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The bill that you referenced for the senior stabilization aid, that's actually a bill that I am prime sponsor of.
Okay.
I can appreciate the import of that particular bill, and I think Monroe is one of several municipalities that are uniquely situated where that would apply. Berkeley and Manchester are 2 in my district that it would apply to as well. Do you have any idea as to what the formula says with respect to the aid or lack thereof that Monroe is getting?
Sure. So there's a couple of components. I'll try to make this as brief because I know you guys do have a lot of people today. But the first part is that the way it's calculated is based on the number of students compared to the number of people that are in the municipality. However, when they're considering the wealth in the local community, not all of that wealth goes to our township. A lot of the seniors have homes in other places, right? So there's different ways that those finances are divided, but that's not necessarily taken into account when they're looking at the formula. But unfortunately, because that wealth looks like we are a very well-to-do community, it takes away any possibility of the equalization aid that we and probably districts like Manchester and the others that you mentioned can get. So from the state, we've only gotten an average of $1,000 per student since 2008. And you know, we did receive a reduced amount of aid this year. We finally do have a little bit of a stall in our spiking enrollment, but because we had double the amount of people from, you know, the last 15 years and we didn't get that help, it's really created a huge burden on us.
$1,000 per student in total?
Yeah, so
Really?
for the state aid that we receive,
Yes.
we receive the most state aid we've gotten in the last, you know, since 2008, so almost 20 years last year, which was about 11 million. But for many years, we were receiving, you know, less than $5 million per year for approximately 7,000 students. So the average over those last 15 to 20 years is $1,000 per student.
Do you happen to know the cost of educating each student?
I believe it's approximately 16 to 17,000. We're one of the lower costs in the state. There, you know, I believe there are some that are slightly lower, but we're definitely on that end. You know, right now, some of our parents are paying for the second half of full day kindergarten, but because we do have the mandate to offer that, we're also going to be losing, you know, that revenue. So, you know, we're really struggling, and we've tried to pass 3 referendums over the last decade to address the infrastructure, because we've got 600 students over in our high school right now where it's supposed to be, but they also just, you know, had passed referendums for 2 other buildings. So it's really a big ask of the taxpayers, in
Sure.
addition to them being disappointed that we're seeing so many other districts getting equalization aid when we've never gotten that because of things like the senior aid and how it's calculated.
Final question through the chair. I imagine that you're below adequacy as well?
We are considered at adequacy, and
Adequacy.
that's part of the problem. Because we're considered being over adequacy, we don't get any of that assistance, but a lot of that is because we've worked hard to try to maintain the programs within our budget, but that means not being able to offer a lot of things that other districts do have. You know, this is more for the Assembly Education Committee. I believe Assemblywoman Reynolds Jackson, you're the chair of that, but there really is no definition of what thorough and efficient education really is, right? Full day kindergarten, now maybe it will be there, but technically it's not. There's a lot of other programs that really probably should be considered that, but if you have them, then you're considered over adequacy. So that's another thing to possibly take a look at.
Thank you for the passion that you bring to your district.
Thank you.